EU. But first, let's talk about Sean Combs. Yeah, Diddy. Why is he still not in prison? I'm asking for a friend who still believes that he's a federal asset. All that and more coming up on Candace. So it's pretty obvious there's some sort of a gang operating in Hollywood, and there always has been one. And it's also pretty obvious that the mainstream media is basically just falling over themselves to hide that glaring obvious fact because they are part and parcel of that gang. Hence the reason they are oddly quiet or protective when it comes to the Diddy case. Referring, of course, to Sean Combs, known once as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. I don't know what year you grew up in. He changes his name very often. But he is facing new sex trafficking allegations in a lawsuit that was filed by a former porn star. Now, I want to recap this because I was hot on this case before I got taken off air. And sometimes I wonder, the media just sort of totally flipped on me until they wanted to turn me into a bad guy. If it's partially due to me having covered this case in a way that most mainstream media members refuse to. So let's quickly recap. We had last year Cassie Ventura, who dated Diddy for over 10 years, come forward with allegations that he had committed rape when he got mad at her, battery, that he had forced her into sex acts with male sex workers. But she also alleged that he was a gangster, that he had once bombed the car of fellow rapper Kid Cudi when he got mad because Kid Cudi and Cassie were dating when her and Diddy were on a break. So he did this in an effort to intimidate him. Now, to be clear, Kid Cudi came out and told the New York Times in a statement that that allegation was true. Cassie also alleged that Diddy had once dangled a friend over a 17th floor balcony, another intimidation tactic, and that he had asked her to carry his gun in her purse. So yeah, she's saying, I dated this man. He is a thug. He is a gangster. And immediately Diddy came out and completely denied this. He tried to kind of get this filed under Me Too. Oh, I would never do this. Well, an update, I was off air when this happened. I know that you guys have probably seen the video. I'm not going to show it because it's so horrific, but a video of Diddy absolutely pummeling Cassie came out. You could just watch Diddy in the video beating her to a pulp. It looks like they're in some sort of a hotel. And obviously, he's got to be king to have the audacity to drag her by her hair down a hallway and to beat her in the manner that he did, knowing essentially that there would be no punishment, that he could do this and then years later deny it, as he did when she came out in her lawsuit against him. So, of course, there was no denying it once this clip made its way around the internet. People were outraged, as they should have been. And Diddy then offered an apology. Take a quick listen.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you got to do that. I was up. I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry.
He's so sorry. Don't you believe him? I got to be honest, I'm struggling to believe him because, yeah, he at first denied all of her allegations publicly. He then quietly settled the case without coming forward and saying that anything that she had said was true. But then once the video became public, of course, he's a different man. Now he does remember beating her to a pulp, and he does remember then going to rehab, allegedly, for having beat her to a pulp. And now he is just so disgusted with himself. Again, is there a buyer out there? Because I am not one of them. But that's not all. Don't forget, last year, the case that I was following was when a producer filed a very, I would just say, it was addled with a lot of evidence and a lot of proof as to his allegations. That producer's name was Rodney Jones. He goes by Lil Rod. And yes, he was one of Diddy's producers. He stepped forward and dropped really what can only be described as the mother of all bombs in the form of a lawsuit, not just against Diddy, but also against Universal Music Group. And why I'm describing this as the mother of all bombs is because he included pictorial evidence of what painted the picture of a homosexual blackmail ring. Okay, so using sex, collecting blackmail on certain individuals in the industry so that you can therefore control him. Now, there were a lot of stunning pieces of evidence in that case filing, but I will tell you that for me, the heaviest allegation that I thought, if I'm just reading this, this seems very valid, came in the form of pictures from a scene in which Little Rob describes Diddy having allegedly, along with one of his sons, potentially shooting someone. The producer says that he was in the bathroom right when it happened, next to the shooting, that he was terrified as he was in the bathroom. And when he came out after Diddy had shot someone, he was tasked with cleaning it. He, again, produced a picture where you can see blood all around. You can see paper trying to clean up the blood, and you just go, okay, all of these paper towels, all of this blood, what then happened? Well, he says that everybody that works for Diddy is instructed that if they ever get themselves in this sort of a situation, there's a cleanup guy that you're supposed to call. He names that man as Fahim Muhammad. And Fahim Muhammad will then get the correct LAPD officer over to the scene to produce a fake police report. Very strong allegations, right? And you might go, oh, wow, well, maybe this producer's telling the truth, maybe he's not. Well, what he then shows is that despite the fact that someone in those pictures, at least if those pictures are to be believed, was shot inside of a recording studio, the LAPD police officer took down a report of a drive-by shooting. And then subsequently the next day, the media, or in the coming days, reported a drive-by shooting. But of course, he's saying that's not what happened at all. They know that's not what happened at all. But clearly, this ring has a lot of power. They've got police officers on their payroll. And by the way, in the event that you believe that that's an implausibility in LA, then please do what I have been begging you all to do and read that book, Chaos, because it is exactly that. It describes a network of police officers, prosecutors, and of course, media members who are on the inside of these sorts of things. It describes very much a ring that took place when the Charles Manson, quote unquote, murders happened back in the 60s. So we're just bringing this forward in the form of the Diddy case, the same exact allegations. And most shocking of all was that man, Fahim Muhammad, which I showed on my show, was also one of two people that was there when Michael Jackson died. Yes, one of two people that was there. Somehow that guy was very young when Michael Jackson died, but got this job as the top security person for MJ. And now he is working as a top security person for Diddy. It, again, as I brought up, leads people to revisit those questions and the things that Michael Jackson was saying towards the ends of his life when he was also describing a ring of people in Hollywood. Essentially a gang that is running Hollywood, and a gang that he said was pursuing him. A gang that it is believed lied and convinced the public that he was a pedophile, despite the fact that he was found not guilty of those allegations. Essentially, because he was going after them, they began going after him, if you believe that. Now, again, I find it very strange that this character, Fahim Muhammad, would have contacts, allegedly, with the LAPD, and the media just doesn't seem interested in that whatsoever, despite, again, an overwhelming amount of evidence being supplied in the form of pictures. What the producer describes, by the way, is that Diddy was the person who was supposed to have these parties, to invite young artists, to drug them without them knowing that they were being drugged. They think they're drinking, there's drugs. And then he would get them to commit sex acts. Now, whether that was against women or whether that was against men, once he would be recording them having done these sex acts, he would then forever control them. Again, a blackmail ring that sounds exactly carbon copy to what Jeffrey Epstein was doing to politicians, right? Great way to get control. Now you can run DC, you can run Hollywood, because we got you one night doing this on camera, and now I own you. Now, stepping aside from the producer's allegations, there were other people who had publicly alleged that this is what was going on in Hollywood, Cat Williams being one of them. Take a listen to what he said to Shannon Sharpe on his podcast. And this is before the producer had dropped his lawsuit. Take a listen.
I'm quite likely to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Kid, I need to know. You here, get your number.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. T.G. Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way. The truth is the light.
I need to have another one of these.
Amen, amen.
Gee.
So Cat Williams said it. The lawsuit started coming out right after he said it, and he said all would be exposed. And I should make it clear that in this lawsuit, the reason why Universal Music Group is being sued by Lil Rod is because he alleges that it's them that is sitting at the top of this ring. So essentially, Diddy is working for somebody else, and that person that he named in his lawsuit was Lucien Grange. He heavily implied, and this is again an allegation, that Lucien Grange was having some sort of a homosexual relationship with Diddy. So he is the person that controls Diddy, that Lucien Grange was aware of these parties, that Universal Music Group was aware of these parties, essentially that Diddy is the thug and the gangster working on behalf of Lucien Grange. That is the takeaway that you get when you read this lawsuit. So how odd that rather than the media being unbelievably interested, as I was, completely seized by this lawsuit, as I was, rather than them asking questions about Fahim, asking questions about Lucien Grange, who's got a very interesting past, changed his name. I don't tend to trust men that change their last names, least of all 3 times, as his family has done. Rather than any of that, they started attacking me for reading the lawsuit, for putting together the clips. How dare you say that there's some sort of a ring? How dare you say, despite the fact that Diddy still has not been arrested. In fact, the LA County is declining to press charges. Despite having the video evidence of him beating Cassie, they are not pressing any charges. How dare I allege that it's pretty obvious that he's an asset? He's clearly a federal asset. That's the only way you can do these sorts of things in broad daylight. You can blow up cars, beat women, and all you have to do is do a video that says, I'm really sorry. He's clearly being protected by somebody who has more power than him and likely has access to the government. How dare Candace Owens say that? You can't say, Lucien Grange is Jewish, by the way. You definitely can't ever allege that a Jewish person was ever in a gang, even though Jewish gangs were running Hollywood and Las Vegas and New York for a while. But we've closed that chapter, and now you can't say any of it. Can't talk about any of those people. Am I living in a crazy planet? I mean, seriously, what is happening right now that you see people in the media that are somehow trying to sweep this under a rug as if it's all a conspiracy theory, as if all of the evidence, people that are speaking out, Diddy's own apology alleging some of the actions, what are all these people, just liars? They're all liars. This can't possibly be happening. And as I said, and the first time I covered this, what's interesting about this lawsuit is it alleges that Diddy was smart enough to understand that he needed to record the people that he was working for. So that unbeknownst to them, while Diddy was recording other people, he also was recording them. Lil Rod alleges that when Lucien and Diddy used to disappear into Diddy's bedroom, that Lucien did not know that Diddy had cameras installed in his bedroom. So it's likely that Diddy has got blackmail on the blackmailers. Well, it's plausible, I should say, that Diddy, if all of this pans out to be true, has blackmail on the blackmailers. And perhaps that is the reason why they are slow to prosecute him. Now, again, I'm just putting 2 and 2 together. But why is the media not doing the exact same thing? Instead, what they're doing is their favorite course of action. They're calling everything a conspiracy theory. Just like Piers Morgan did when he rushed to yell at me about talking about Diddy being a Fed asset, even though he admits he didn't even read the lawsuit. Take a listen.
Again, you're being disingenuous because actually you're stating it as fact.
No, what I'm telling people
in the same way you
is,
say, I state my entire reputation and Brigitte Macron's a man, you also stated this fact, nothing from a lawsuit. You just said he's not in jail, you tweeted, because he's a Fed CIA asset. Kanye tried to tell everybody.
Have you read the lawsuit? Because it seems like you haven't, obviously.
But that's your statement.
No. Did you read the lawsuit? That's the first thing, because we can skip the hyperbole. Did you read the lawsuit?
I'm asking you.
Okay, then we're not going to talk about this topic. So no, he didn't read the lawsuit, but he wants to make sure that I'm not saying that he is a federal asset. And he's not the only one. This has kind of been the perspective. Everyone's a conspiracy theorist that reads the lawsuit. Ben Shapiro also had some similar commentary. Take a listen.
Now, bottom line is that the feds obviously are going to fully investigate this. Now, you're seeing a lot of conspiracy theories out there today, and it's always the same people who participate. It is odd how if you believe one conspiracy theory, you tend to believe literally all the conspiracy theories. That is the way this tends to work. And all the conspiracy theories tend to center around unnamed, unspecified people who are manipulating the system. And it can't just be that there are evil people who are participating in many evil things at any given time around the world, as they all are in cahoots with each other and there is some grand master scheme. And that all this is a way of shutting Diddy up before he can speak about his paymasters. Okay, well, when the evidence of that emerges, then let me know. Alternatively, P. Diddy is an incredibly rich, incredibly famous celebrity who's been able to sexually gallivant as he pleases for literally 30 years, and then he got caught doing it in criminal ways, which seems pretty plausible to me. I don't see why you need a conspiracy theory to exactly explain that one. But for folks who are conspiratorially minded, the answer is always the same. There's a conspiracy that explains everything. That is, frankly, a very peculiar way to live, that there's always a monster in the closet lurking behind the real monster. Maybe Diddy is just the monster. Maybe it's just that. You don't always need a conspiracy to explain everything, folks. In fact, you very rarely do.
So I think I've talked about this in the past, and I just wholeheartedly disagree with everything that he just said there, because it's not a conspiracy when we are actually reading the lawsuit and looking at all the evidence. And the person did, in fact, name names. He named Lucien Grange as being the person that sat at the top of the ring and said that he was present when Lucien Grange would come over and go to Diddy's room. So I'm just not clear on the definition of conspiracy. But what I do know is that the history of using that term conspiracy theorist was something that was cooked up by the CIA as an effort to dispel rumors regarding JFK's death. So they recognize that if you keep calling people a conspiracy theorist and you keep saying it's a conspiracy, that people may shy away from the topic. I don't suffer from that. I want to know what's going on, as should every single person in this country, because there should be no individual in the entire world that can beat a woman on camera and not face any charges. That is just an utter insanity. It begs the question as to what is actually going on in Hollywood. And I think the answer is that Hollywood has been being run by a gang with a very long arm, an arm that reaches all the way into the government for a very long time. And so I'm urging people to wake up to these facts and not to be dissuaded because, Piers Morgan says, I'm not going to read the lawsuit, but neither should you. Maybe it's time for us all to start believing our own eyes and believing our own ears and listening to the many people in Hollywood who have tried to speak out about a ring, who have tried to speak out about a gang that is controlling the actions of everyone. Maybe let's stop calling those people who are suffering at the hands of those individuals conspiracy theorists. Maybe they're just victims. That's all I'm going to say about that topic. Speaking of victimhood,